Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we will be listening to the 11th part of What If Deku Didn't Believe All Might and Remained Quirkless. If you enjoy, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing down below, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you get notified when videos go live. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. Chapter 21, in which Izuku sends Katsuki into debt over medical bills that should not exist. A sudden change on both of our minds. Izuku woke up to find 3 people sitting round his bed. One of them pressed their hand on his back as he sat up straight. His hands went to his neck unconsciously. One of the people in his room grabbed his wrist before he could scratch the back of it, a nervous habit. He looked up to see his mum staring at him. Her jaw was clenched and her palms were boiling. She pressed down on his wrist as if squeezing a stress ball. "Mum? Are you okay?" he asked. The others were ignored. Whatever had gotten her that riled up needed to be addressed. Instead of yelling, she wrapped him in a hug. Inko cried into his shoulder. "I'm sorry, I should have worn school. My God Izuku, it's all my fault. How have I been so oblivious all this time? Why did it take this for me to start being the parent you needed all those years ago? I'm sorry." She apologized. There was the "I'm so sorry." The apology wasn't needed. He didn't know why she was apologizing. Something must have happened, hands round his throat, choking him, killing him, sucking the life right out of him. "Burns, hot, make it stop, please, it hurts too much." His round had been with Bakugo. It was illogical to believe he got out unharmed, but nothing hurt. A few burns were nothing to him. They had never been. Was it the fact they were on live TV? Did people think he was weak? Were people out there shaking their heads at him being all out in UA? It was too much like those 11 years ago. Pity smothered the room. They had learned to ignore it, but now they were going to leave him. Tears were already growing in his eyes. So, like he trained himself to do, Izuku pushed them back. He couldn't fuel that stereotype further. Midoriya peeked over his mum's shoulder to see Hitachi and Okako sitting behind her. Behind his mum's back, he mouthed, "What happened?" His friends shuffled in their seats, but Shinsu answered, "You got wrecked. Literally, recovery girl thought you'd have to go into surgery if you didn't wake up soon. Bakugo caused pretty bad damage to your vocal cords. Uraraka kicked his ass in the finals though." That made a lot of sense. Burns often itched, especially if they were bad. He just had to avoid itching his neck. "Okay, he's got it." Inko pulled away from Izuku when he got the explanation. She wiped her own tears away. She looked over at where Izuku sat on the hospital bed. "Before we can go, we actually need to ask something," she said. Izuku nodded in confirmation that she could ask. "Do you want to press charges on Katsuki, Izuku? He's already being forced into anger management and UA's considering expelling him unless you say otherwise. His teacher's quite insistent on it actually." Izuku shook his head. "You can't do that to him. The anger management will be enough. If they could make sure I stay away from him if possible though." He twitched his fingers when answering. "I'd rather avoid ever getting burns again." Inko hugged him again. "You're too kind. You should have sent him flying into tomorrow for the damage he's done. You might want to see it first before we agree on letting him off nearly scot-free." They handed him a mirror and Izuku looked into it. He spotted it straight away. The red blisters around his neck. Unlike the previous few that passed as sunburns, this one splintered around. It looked raw. As if Izuku had climbed into the sun just to earn it. Butterfly wings sprawled across his neck like a trophy that he had earned by being useless. It was beginning to scab over nearer the middle. The spider web of new skin looked a bacteria eating away at him. Scratching could lead to him going into his own flesh. The healing was slow even when it was quickened. It spread around the first half of his neck. The back being saved by his curly tufts. It would scar, it would leave permanent gray marks for the world to see. He was fortunate he could see nothing black from where skin had been charred off. He didn't lift a finger to look at the wound, instead examining it closer in the middle. He could already feel the bobble under his fingers instead of the smooth metal stand the mirror was held on. "Kaken did this?" he asked, looking round at everyone in the room. Uraraka nodded. Hitachi let out a yep. And Inko began to tear up all over again. Midoriya looked over at Recovery Girl. "This isn't going to stunt me in any way, is it?" His throat was hoarse from the damage that had been done. The elderly woman nodded. Well, I'm sure you've figured out that it's going to leave a nasty scar, young man. I would bargain a guess it's never going to stop itching, and at times it might flare up and start to hurt. That should be psychological though, because the healing seems to be going fine. I'll let you rest up at home and minimize talking. Lots of water as well. Your mother already has the necessary equipment to help you deal with it, but do not be afraid to come to me or any other doctor if you're unsure. That might be some of the worst wounds I've seen a good few sports festivals. Izuku nodded numbly to the information. Suing Kiken was what everyone else would want him to do, it just didn't seem fair. He'd never been told no before. The wounds were worse than the normal ones he received, but surely Aladiro would have let him get away with that. One big drop in reality would shatter Bakugo. Was that what he needed? Maybe not explosion. There had to be other ways to get the message that this wasn't okay. He shook his head. I want him to pay for the health insurance. As if recovery girl here didn't exist. There was silence. Are you sure you don't want him expelled? I'd rather send him into crippling debt he has to pay off when he becomes a good hero. The drive back home was silent. He had said his goodbyes to Shinsu and Yurika earlier before they had to leave to catch their respective trains. The car rocked as they drove over the train track over the way to their house. His mom's eyes were focused solely on the road while Izuku flipped through the news to see how the sports festival had played out. The headlines were all about it. The fight between Yurika and Bakugo made international news along with the final standings of the everyone. The top 16 earned a shout-out in most of the papers. The most frequent name was Bakugo, however. If it wasn't the finals, it was the semis or the quarter-finals. The news chose to ignore his fight. He was kind of glad about that though. He didn't need them to talk about him. Shinsu appeared more than he did. As the underdog who threw the contest for the loop. The Gen Ed course's secret weapon. He made small headlines written by smaller reporters. They called him the brainwash boy. That was utterly stupid because Hitachi needed his quirks unknown for it to work, not finalized on the internet for anyone to see. People were placing bets on who would get kicked from the hero course for him to take their place. Izuku didn't need their false propaganda on what was happening to his friend. Not when he had the real person. Contact, Insomniac. Actually sleeps, have you got anything from UA? About like, going into the hero course, seeing Azurthur and all. Insomniac, yeah, got an email when it finished. N. Actually sleeps, you didn't tell me. I thought we were friends, dash. Insomniac, I'm interning under Izawa, then I'm joining for hero classes. SMTH, about making sure I'm ready before actually taking action. SMH. Actually sleeps, I smell horse shit. Insomniac, horse shit? Actually sleeps, they can't just make you not a hero student because of some fucking kid who didn't make it past round 1? Insomniac, oh. Quirk has great potential, oh. Actually sleeps, if Isuka, do you think you'd get moved up instantly? Insomniac, you can ask. Izuku put his phone down and turned to face his mom. What do you reckon would happen if I sued Katsuki? He asked. He received a non-committal hum in response. He bit his lip and didn't ask again for the rest of the journey. Instead, he went to ask Google. Typing in with speed, he searched what happens if you cause harm to another as a minor. He gasped, as he scrolled through the answers. Clicking the power button, he screenshot the result and sent it over. Actually sleeps, attached image. Insomniac, you spared him all of that shit? What? It would have been so funny. Actually sleeps, but, no one deserves to go through that. Insomniac, okay true. But imagine. Actually sleeps, he's a good person, he's been told the wrong things, this is something he's never had to imagine. Insomniac, that says more about him than UNGL. Actually sleep, it would ruin him, I'm not a monster. Shinsu. Insomniac, can't deny it'd be funny though. Katsuki Bakugo, childhood prodigy, homeless because he got blacklisted from every her school, no high school wants that kid on their record and no job will take a recognized criminal even with rehab. Only with middle school, and then he can't even do that because teachers let him do whatever he wanted. Izuku, it would be hilarious, PLS understand my POV. Actually sleeps, I can't. That was going to be my life, I couldn't give that to someone else. Insomniac, that doesn't matter. We all know you couldn't. What's important is whether or not you laughed at the mental image of Bakugo being homeless and doing odd jobs to earn a penny to buy a moldy sandwich. Actually sleeps, so what if I grinned after imagining him in that situation? Insomniac, see, I knew you had a sense of humor. Actually sleeps, yeah. Details. Have you told Eureka? Any clue who you'll intern with? Reckon you got any offers or not? I bet a few underground heroes went for you. Ms. Joke would be a good match seeing as you both work with voice quirks and have to get reactions out of people. She'd be worth having a go with. You'd learn a lot, I reckon, about how to utilize your quirk is super secret ways. Aizawa would also be a great one to intern with seeing as you're already training with each other and therefore can learn a lot about hand-to-hand the capture weapon. Yes, I saw it in your bag. If you aim on continuing to train like him, it would be worth spending time refining, especially when you're playing catch-up. I know Eureka is going for a melee hero if she gets an offer or that's what she wants to do. I'm not actually that sure if she already has plans with a bunch of other stuff going on for her. Anyways, coming in third is bound to get loads of heroes excited for you. Go with who you want, I'll support you. Obviously, I might question if you go for a spotlight hero, but you haven't even considered that for years from what you've told me. The next week or two is going to be hectic, isn't it? You and Okako off on your internships. Leaving me all alone, dash. Insomniac, what are your plans for when we're on internships? With your scars and all, I don't want you getting injured or bullied. Actually sleeps, I'll deal with it on Friday. I'm used to it, I'll be fine. I also agreed to spend my lunches with May. Insomniac, God save us all. Midoriya chuckled as he flipped offline and hopped out of the cars and into the house. He knew Inko was glancing at him worriedly behind his back. It always happened when she was aware of his injuries. It was best to ignore it and push onwards until her worry faded over time. Want to go watch the news with me, Izuku? It's bound to just be the festival, but if you want to watch the highlights. He jogged up to her and grinned, I'd love to, Mom. Do we have any popcorn? Coming back to school on Friday was refreshing. Izuku had stolen some of his mom's concealer and gently applied it round the wound. Recovery girl had done an amazing job making sure he didn't have to stay off longer than anyone else. The makeup wouldn't infuriate the wound as it was now healed. He buttoned his shirt looser than usual. He didn't know if the collar round his neck would be as tight as Katsuki's hands were. It wasn't something he wanted to find out. He kept the top button undone and the tie dangling loosely off him. As he closed the door, Izuku could see his mum glancing back at him, as if worried he would get jumped any second. He bit his lip and sent the most reassuring smile that he could muster. With that, he closed the door behind him and waited till it clicked. That symbolized it had locked tight. He dropped the smile and raised his hand up to itch the scar. Each time he found it reached, Midoriya jerked his hand away. It clenched at his side. His fingers dug into his palms, something to ground himself to. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Izuku pulled it out and looked at the notification. He unclenched his palm to swipe it open, unaware of small scratches he had made. Barking dogs seldom bite. Catnip SMTH, BTW, I'm W the hero course first period. SMTH about internships, need to be there. Eureka, oh. You're joining us then? FRE SHA do, he's getting out of maths. Catnip SMTH, yes to both, smiley face, Eureka, lucky, wish I could get out of maths. But no, we're missing art history. FRE SHA do, you're doing hero names and internships. You literally don't have the right to complain / Catnip SMTH, true that. He kept the phone open longer than when everyone went offline. When he was the only one active in the group chat, he pocketed the mobile and continued walking. He avoided the alleyways. It was a small trick he learned over the years. Most muggers who weren't desperate had lost all their money on sports festival bets. With how the game went down, several of them would be bankrupt and looking for a quick way to get cash. Even if Midoriya had avoided the hot spots, he couldn't stop checking round the back of him to ensure he wasn't being tailed. The streets were too crowded, you'd have to be an idiot to do a crime in rush hour, but villains these days did it for the kicks. He liked the avoid that kind, especially when debating. It wouldn't be the first time some idiot thought no one cared about a quirkless kid. Surprisingly, some of them were thick enough to believe if a quirkless kid died it made up for the amount of property damage caused. It was silly, Even his favorite mugger believed that. On the topic of her, he knew that she was slipping further down. The scratch on his shoulder wasn't bad, but the news was going on about some shapeshifter. There was only one person he knew who was capable of that. Izuku considered himself well versed in the criminals of Mufasa. He would know. Their game would have to end soon then. He couldn't help constantly fact-checking what he knew. All the information still pointed to her being Toga Himiko. Her phone number sat undialed in his rotary. Any second now and he could stop it all. He could have stopped it all long ago. However, he could be wrong. Midoriya couldn't risk being wrong over something as petty as believing something wrong was going to happen. The train station was busier than when he usually arrived, the crowd swarming every section. Izuku weaved through to his usually meeting spot with Okako and stood there. "You're usually earlier," she said, looking at him. "I didn't take my shortcut. Had to go through town," he responded. "Are you excited for your internships?" "Obviously. I already know one of my offers. Yagi wants me to go with his old mentor." "Really, that's what I should do. I want to work on my quirk and all. It's just, I already know some of my new moves and I can perfect them on the beach and you can help." "I know why. I think it'd be more useful to learn hand-to-hand. Especially with the fact I have no extensive training in hand-to-hand. Shinsu would have taken me down if my quirk wasn't touch-based. It was close with Momo as well. Too close for comfort." Izuku hummed as he explained his thoughts. "I think you should go for Yagi's offer. Izuku is bound to teach you hand-to-hand. If you really need help, someone is bound to offer the new star of the hero. Meanwhile, you're pretty bound when it comes to who can teach you about your quirk. It'd be a waste for you to not do anything purely because the next chance you get for this is a year." She nodded. "Yes. I didn't think of that. I guess I was pretty focused on the whole, not actually having a choice in what I do to see that option. Thank you, Izuku. Now all I have to worry about is my hero name. I had an idea for when it was just zero gravity, but I think I should be more impactful now I'm more than just that. Do you have any thoughts?" Izuku scratched the back of his neck. "You might have to try Shinsu for that one. All of my names when I was younger were Small Might, etc." Eureka giggled as she climbed onto the train that had just arrived. "I can't see Shinsu calling himself anything better, to be honest. He'll end up calling himself Brainwasher or something that gives his quirk away." Izuku snorted as well. "I hope he's smarter than that." "Hope? You don't sound so enthusiastic." "It's one of the things we have to ask him." "You can't do it, and why would I ask?" "Because you would. Just message the chat. It can be like our secret plot to get him a sensible name that doesn't give him away. You message first though." "Okay, I will." Barking dogs seldom bite. Fresh do at Catnip smth. What's your hero name? Uwurika, o.otel. Catnip smth, only if you share URS first. Oka. Uwurika, fine. Drum roll please. Catnip smth, no. Fresh do, brm drum. Uwurika, Urivite. I'm still working on the _hero part. Fresh do, Hitachi. You have to share now. Catnip smth, fine, the silent hero, Mind Jack. PLS tell me you get it? Chapter 22, Stain's Ideology, Why It Is Shit and Why All the Characters Hate It. Written by me, the author who has these opinions. New post by Fighting Quirkism_. A study on Stain's ideology, by all the admins. Admin Watermelon, for those of you who are unaware of who Stain is, what his ideology is and why he's all over the news, this is the basic rundown. Please understand, to form a proper opinion you should read other articles etc. Stain is a villain that has been captured recently after the Nomu attack in Hosu City. He had no prior connection to the League of Villains, so the police are looking into whether this timing was just a coincidence. Some of his most notorious attacks include his attempt at number 10 hero Wash, the paralysis of Ingenuum and the murder of Manuel and UA first-year Itsutina. His ideology is the basis that all heroes are fakes apart from All Might due to having either selfish motivations such as fame or money or are incapable of saving others. It's important to understand he does not kill without a reason and will protect those he deems a true hero. The actions he takes are wrong and he understands that. Believing in Stain's beliefs doesn't equal going to give any hero you deem unworthy the death sentence. Admin Broccoli, We need to get forward that from this point on, this post is against his ideology. The way he words it makes it easy to eat up as the truth. We aim on looking at the intentions, meaning and way it will affect our life in the long run. It doesn't paint a pretty picture. Yes, you must understand that we are biased. One of our admins was friends with late Itsukinya and two are aspiring heroes. I have a negative experience with All Might. We do not agree with it, and yes, we are influenced by parts of our life. That doesn't mean our words hold no meaning. It merely means we could not see his views before and we certainly cannot now. Admin Crystal, Stain views All Might as the one true hero because he has saved everyone and drastically decreased crime rates. All Might is what one would define as the perfect hero. He's charming and unstoppable. We cannot deny that on an ideal world, we would have hundreds of All Mights and no one else. We don't live in that world. We live in a world where we have hundreds of different quirks and it is nearly impossible to save everyone, especially without help. One of the things that make All Might perfect is his lack of sidekicks. He has only ever had one in history, and that is Sir Nightai, a now pro hero. All Might can Delaware smash the villains away without a need for help because he is merely that strong. Sidekicks are in most scenarios heroes who are new to the scene. Removing the option of having a sidekick, or a team of them, takes away the learning experience. We would lose more heroes and more civilians without them. Admin Broccoli, the impact All Might has on society is also detrimental in the long run. The man is only human, yet he single-handedly holds all of the peace of Japan on the palm of his hand. Crime rates have been lower. We have all seen that source. Have you all seen the quiz in the age before All Might showed civilians had better quirk control? Heroes had to only deal with crime overlords, otherwise known as BSS rank villains. Simple muggings, robberies, etc. could be handled by the police, or the victim, saving time and resources. We can assume this comes down to All Might's standard that he can save everyone. Growing up, children are shown videos of him fighting. Parents tell children he's a hero and All Might says I am here, and we never get told, one day, you might have to fight back, or one day someone won't come. This places more harsh standards on heroes along with more limelight. When he retires, crime will rise. They will have been raised to believe the only true threat is gone. Civilian deaths will rise with the crime at any point. However, they won't know how to fight back. The balance will tip grandly. All Might is a true hero in that his morals are great. Those morals lower civilian safety, which is something we need. We cannot always assume a man can save the world. Admin Watermelon, another part of Stain's ideology that clashes is the belief that no hero should be a hero for money. It's a job that should be done purely for others. The worst example of this type of hero is Uwebumi, who starred in several model campaigns. It has been confirmed she had interns. This makes her insufficient as both a hero and teacher. So, heroes like this do exist. However, Stain takes this to an extreme. Any hero who takes money or works for money is automatically labeled as fake. That belief is a fault of the work. We cannot hold the standard to heroes if we do not do the same to other life-saving jobs such as nurses, the police force, firemen, etc. It is impossible to live without money, and being a hero is a full-time job. Being paid is essential, and for such a dangerous job, it pays ridiculously low. The merch we see for heroes pays 60% of what they earn. This is a cycle, meaning being popular is the only way to keep your head above the water in the field. The money you earn is dependent on your contract. You get a better contract by being higher on the rankings. You get higher on the rankings by popularity. See the issue here? In order to pay for damage, costume support, etc., you must be popular. The quickest way to get popular being to take less missions. It's a loop you can only escape after years. Our top 3 have either been on the scene for years or got a contract from the Hero Commission off the bat. Money is a vital part of heroics, and one everyone must work for. No one educated on the cycle chooses to be a hero for the money alone. It may look like we're in it for the fame, but anyone who goes on longer than sidekick does really want to help people. Admin Crystal, if we want to talk about the true heroes, we need look no further than vigilantes and underground heroes who Stain doesn't like. They are heroes other than All Might after all. They work and earn just above the minimum wage. They clear up the mess All Might's left. Commonly, they help domestic abuse gone too far, muggings, etc. Vigilantes do the same, illegally. They put their future at risk to save people, along with their lives. The normal belief that heroics is a corrupt industry is that civilians should push for our own self-defense. It promotes for the abolishment of the law that prevents us using our quirk without license. It presses that withholding part of ourselves is inherently quirkist, as the heroics only allows for those who are powerful. Heroics would not be a job but a charity. It would be people's choice to support them. This belief would not praise All Might as he upholds the system and still takes money. This belief works that crime rates on large scales would drop. Not because of one man's dehumanization. 67% of crimes, according to the survey, occur to the scale they can just because that person can. Admin Broccoli, the laws are created to place those with powerful quirks on a pedestal. Oh, but it's illegal to hire someone on quirks alone. You're right. However, no law states the job must be accessible for all quirks. The law does not say quirks must not be involved in the job process. The concept that we cannot use our quirks in fear of property damage is bullshit and always will be. Mount Lady has cost us more in 16 months than Pop Step has in those same 16 months. It's literally just that they cannot control us all. Allowing free quirk use is liberating us. By taking away heroes and making everyone pay for damage they cause, we would see a rise in more true heroes and safer ways of civilian safety. Admin Watermelon, if you've made it this far, you may be wondering, what does any of this have to do with Stain? Stain promotes the existence of heroes and the heroic system. Yet, at the same time he is against the only way it can run due to it creating fakes. Stain's beliefs are oxymorons at best and just obsessive All Might fanboying at worst. Heroes and purely unselfish deeds cannot coexist. The change that needs to occur is larger than just killing some heroes when the system will only churn out more. Stain could not see the bigger picture, and neither can his followers. Every person he is attacking is innocent of the crimes he says they committed. We are victims to the system which he couldn't see. I hope that he sees and changes his mind before he kills anyone else. He has the influence to make the first step we need in the world we need. Comments. @Ria_Ria commented on your post, bruh, WDYM Stain's just a All Might stanny and that makes it beliefs instantly bad? Oxymorons, whatever that word means. Look at how much he's done for us all, you generally can't believe the bullshit you're spreading right now. Like seriously? You're generally bashing on the one hero who gives a shit? Get a life and focus on the bigger problems. @FightingQuirkism_ responding to @Ria_Ria, read the post again. We never said All Might was bad, just that his actions are negative in the long run. Admin Watermelon. @Ria_Ria responding to @FightingQuirkism_, I have. Seriously, this is all a ton of bullshit. The heroes are the ones at fault considering they can just turn down the money if they actually cared. It isn't the laws trying to protect his fault. @FightingQuirkism_ responding to @Ria_Ria, we can send you our sources that prove the law is against us. Admin Watermelon. @Ria_Ria responding to @FightingQuirkism, I literally can't be bothered to read them. More comments, loading. @HannahWingism, this is 4 words. @HannahWingism, this is 4 words. @HannahWingism, this is 4 words. @HannahWingsim, this is 4 words. @HannahWingism, this is 4 words. @HannahWingism, this is 4 words. @HannahWingism, this is 4 words. @HannahWingsim, this is 4 words. @HannahWingism, whoops, I think I might have just got myself shadow banned for spamming. @FightingQuirkism responding to @HannahWingism, why'd you do all of that? /Gen Admin Broccoli. @HannahWingism responding to @FightingQuirkism_, it boosts a post to get you higher up the algorithm. @FightingQuirkism_ responding to @HannahWingism, oh. Thank you. More comments loading. @Spupaskel156, can we just discuss the fact these guys have researched this topic? The ideologies have literally pointed out all the flaws in Stain's argument without coming off as a all heroes are great mindset. Like, you all are getting pressed that someone pointed out you can't be anti-hero motives but pro-heroic system because they clash together. Read the whole damn post and realize Stain isn't enlightened or some shit. He literally destroyed the realist beliefs and mocked it. Open y'all eyes. You can't say I'm fighting quirkism or I believe all heroes are flawed, without fighting for this mindset. @Die.mad responded to @Spupaskel156, there is literally no quirkism ingrained in society. People just don't hire people because they don't have the skill sets. Heroics can't be done by a dude with a weak or non-existent quirk because quite frankly it doesn't exist. Take the law away and there'd be no liberation, just a mess. Or in case you don't remember section 6 of your law book, quirks cannot be the main decider in the choice of who gets a job. At Spupaskel156 responded to @die.mad, you're right, because deciding that two people with the qualifications that one is better because they have a better quirk is not quirkist. The fact 1 in 5 mutants get refused jobs on the basis they may scare others even if they are better suited. The quirkless are denied jobs left, right and center. 1 in 10 quirkless people get accepted for a job. Only 5% live that long, meaning 0.2% of the quirkless population get jobs. Let that sink in and tell me quirkism is in no way a major factor in that. @die.mad responded to @Spupaskel156, can you even do your maths right? @Spupaskel156 responded to @die.mad, point still stands. You can see the statistics are www.quirksandopstatistics.com. @die.mad responded to @Spupaskel156, all of them were based with valid reasoning. Be grateful they cared about the useless things enough to save their lives. Guys could never survive factory life, LMAO. @fightingquirkism_ responded to @die.mad, actually, a look into our history pre-quirk shows that we can survive these scenarios. In fact, we stand a higher chance in factories nowadays. The only way we're at risk at all is the neglect they put in to make sure quirk rules are followed. Admin Broccoli. @Spupaskel156 responded to @die.mad, @die.mad, just accept society doesn't need your kind XX. Instagram user @die.mad, your account has been taken down for hate speech, just accept society doesn't need your kind XX. Please contact Instagram support service if you think there has been a misunderstanding. Loading more comments. @Stain's ideology, clearly you missed the point here. The idea behind Stain's ideology is not that the system is flawed, it's that heroes need to do their job better. The system would improve if we had more heroes like All Might to set the path down. I have high hopes for you and your beliefs are valid but not what Stain's are. I hope I've informed you better and best of luck in the future. 3. @fightingquirkism_ responding to @Stain's ideology, while the system can be bettered, it will be near impossible to find more All Mights because most of the selfish actions are made from the will to have money to live/pay the bills. @LeeStainy, KYS, smiley face. @AllTrueHeroes876, fake news, straight face. @Stain's follower, EWWWWWW, imagine protecting fakes because they're uwu misunderstood, sweet lil PPL who are only trying to make ends meet uwu. Literally smell your false beliefs all the way from here. Look at Endeavor or Hawks before you say they're all faults of the system. LMFAO, imagine protecting them, W such weak excuses. @fightingquirkism_ responding to @Stain's follower, imagine not knowing the only hero in the top 10 Stain attacked was Wash, and even then it hasn't been confirmed. Heroes such as Manuel would not be living like Endeavor. Endeavor is a shitbag of a person. His status of a hero doesn't add or change that fact. So no. We aren't protecting him. Crystal. @LeeStainy2, KYS. @LeeStainy2, you block me cause you're scared? KYS. Midoriya pulled his phone down and looked over at Mike and Midnight. Is it usual to get this much hate or is it just we did a really bad take? He asked. Eureka peeked up at that, I don't think so. At least we shouldn't be morally, but I've heard horror stories. If I got a dime for every DM I've had to delete for hate, I think I'd be in the hundreds. Some of the story resharies are funny though. Shinsu joked, snorting as he scrolled through them, this account has no clue what they're saying and they're another Stain fan account. Eureka flopped her head forward, let's see, oh. I think they spammed us as well. Izuku also peeked over, I thought I blocked her. The comments caused the two adults to also bend over the mobile device. Midnight's eyes scrunched as she pulled the phone out of his hand and went off to the corner. The three of them looked at her but made no attempts to get the phone back. In the meantime, Yamada sat down beside them. How bad is the hate? If it's terrible, Nemuri will have no qualms about getting them to back off. How are you handling it? We can start brainstorming the next post instead. Only do what you need to. Hitachi nodded, yeah, we know Dad. Dad? Eureka and Izuku asked at the same time. Sure, after the weekly meetings with him they could kind of see him as a parental figure to someone else. It wasn't something they would put with themselves. Hisashi seemed just as surprised. He yelled out, "Dad." "Yeah, overprotective. Thinks teenagers can't handle some hate. You easily forgot Izuku is quirkless and my quirk's been classified as villainous. We're used to the bullies. Eureka is handling the DMS and most of that is spam. We know what we're doing. I can't help but to worry." "Yeah, because you're a dad. We both know it. You're like, the really caring dad who basically does the parenting because midnight is the end and Eraserhead doesn't give a shit as long as kids are still breathing." Izuku raised an eyebrow. "Honestly, that makes sense though. Are you sure you don't have a son?" "Wait, Hito-kun. You're the son, aren't you? They totally became your unofficial parents over your internship. That's why it's so realistic. That's what happened, isn't it?" Shinsu and present Mike flushed at being called out. The Purplenet was the first to reboot. "Do not tell Todoroki about this. I will never hear the end of it. I am going to tell Todoroki. Nothing you say can stop me." "Wait, why can't we tell Todoroki? He'll come up with a theory we're actually biologically related." "It isn't funny." "It is. You laughed when he asked if Bakugo was his long-lost brother. That was funny dash." "Wait. He asked if Bakugo was related to Endeavor." "Yes." They burst into laughter. The account off their mind for a good few seconds. Which was probably a good thing, considering how much rage Midnight was in over some of it. Chapter 23, Toga asks philosophical questions at 7 a.m. She also thinks Eureka is cute, so there's that. "Izuku-kun." Someone called. She was standing down the alley with blood down her school uniform. "I met with the people who Staney worked with yesterday." She rocked back and forth as if they were two friends meeting for a cup of coffee instead of in an alleyway discussing a murderer. "They agreed to let me join them and they have a place to stay." She grinned. "Do you know what that means?" Izuku shook his head. He could make a guess, but that doesn't mean he was certain. She hopped towards him and wrapped her arms around his waist. "That means I don't have to come down and see you every day to get some blood." Her chin rested on his shoulder. He grabbed her fingers and tried to pull her off him as gently as possible. "You're working with the League of Villains?" he asked. He had to be certain no matter how unbelievable it was. She nodded. "Yep. They're gonna let me be just like Staney." Izuku couldn't push Toga away. If the League of Villains was recruiting using Stain to their advantage, they could actually stand a chance. Mugging had been an everyday part of his life. He had stopped drawing a line there months ago. The police would never catch them, and at least she never actually put anyone in harm's way. A few scratches, but that was what teenagers who had been denied blood when they were practically a vampire did. He couldn't stop her from being a criminal, but and villainy had never crossed his mind. "Are you sure about this? I mean, you're going to be even worse in the eyes of the law and you can't turn back. I don't know if this is really the best choice. Couldn't you speak to someone? It's just, the heroes are looking for them, and if it's home or money, I'm sure my mom would be willing to help out." His voice wobbled and she clenched him harder. She forced him to listen to her. "Or you could come and join us. Seeing as we're all outcasts and you'd fit right in. You wouldn't be a victim anymore." She presented the idea with cheer. "Toga, that isn't what I'd want," Izuku said. He gathered the energy to push her away. "And being a villain is only going to make me worse. I want to help people, not kill them, so they listen while I monologue." She stumbled back as she was forced away from him. She was grinning as she disappeared down the alleyway. "I guess we're enemies now, Izuku-kun. I was hoping we could be arch-nemesis in other ways. Maybe you'd try and get my name so I'd be in your debt and I'd keep playing you round and round in circles." She giggled. "But this is far more exciting. I'll see you in some epic battle, Izuku-kun." Izuku didn't want to believe this was the end. He might have if she hadn't brought up his saving grace. He didn't have time for caution. As she began to vanish down the alleyway to do whatever she did, Midoriya began to chase after her. "Toga Himiko, come back here." She turned around and stared at him. Her eyes ate away at him. She was demanding to know why or what. "That's your name, isn't it?" he asked. The only thing left was to pray that she didn't go berserk on him. She shook her head. "The game's over, Izuku-kun. Surely you have realized the game is over by now." People pushed past her. They were yelling over the crowds, yet neither of them seemed to care. All that mattered was the fact Izuku had ended their old game. "Then can I suggest a new game?" His hands trembled as he stammered it out. Any confidence was sucked away. It left him panting despite having hardly moved. I can hand you in. I can bring in some friends. It can be like cat and mouse except this time you're running from me and the police. You'll bring the league and Stain down as well. Or you can finish our current one game, it doesn't matter. The only difference is how they treat you. They're gonna treat me the same, Izuku. She headed closer. Toga stopped once there was no space between them. Izuku bit his lip. I'm a criminal, but at least if we continue a game a bit longer I can have some fun. You were fun, Izuku. Just not fun enough for me to turn myself in for you. I wish you'd join me. People gave them stares. Toga nuzzled into him and Midoriya was acutely aware that he was trying to apprehend a villain who was acting like a domestic cat. It wasn't that this was that strange of an occurrence. Most of the time Mugger was the title Izuku gave Himiko because it was easier. She was more like an unwelcome pest. The only thing she stole was his body heat without his permission. Just, never in public. Toga dash. Himiko. I'm sorry. She booped his nose. Izuku couldn't flinch back in time to stop her. We know each other well enough for you to call me Himiko or another cutesy nickname, wouldn't you agree? Right, okay. Himiko, can you maybe move away so people stop staring at us? She hugged him tighter in response. Not until we reach an agreement if you want another round that badly, Izuku. Why don't you try UA out? It isn't as bad or restricting as you think. I know from a friend a kid there has blown a building up and they did nothing. She couldn't believe it. You were meant to repress anything people didn't like about you back. Then again, a student had died in an attempt of vigilantism. Maybe the leash wasn't as tight as she imagined. Toga grinned. If I don't like it then I can leave and do whatever I want with the league. Deal? Now come on. We need to get you on our train. Izuku said. He gripped Toga's wrists. It wouldn't make a difference if she really wanted to get lost. She had no qualms about biting after all. It was more to do with the crowd that would have formed by the station at this point. The last thing he needed was for Toga to board the wrong train or forget her ticket. They shortcut down alleyways before arriving. Himiko had tried to fight the coin machine before Izuku gave up and did it for her. The last few people were boarding as they hopped into the nearest carriage. His phone buzzed. He tightened his grip on Himiko, careful to not dig his nails in, and pulled the device out. The message was from Eureka, but with one head occupied, he dialed her number and placed his phone on his ear. She picked up immediately. I'm on the train, he reassured. I brought a friend with me and she decided to be difficult with coming. Himiko glared at him but Izuku ignored her. He continued to pull through the crowds. We're on the second to last carriage. I'm looking out for you. Izuku expected the call to end there. It didn't. Huddled in a four-seater, Okako sat with her legs pulled stretched out and a phone to her ear. Her chewing her lip and distant look scared anyone from asking to sit near her. She spoke down the phone line. Who's your friend? That wasn't meant to be rude. I don't think UA will let them through unless it's a special case. I'll explain it to you in person. There was silence as they waited for each other to hang up. Eureka realized Midoriya thought she had ended the call when he said, Himiko, stop glaring at me. As if all his will to live had been drained out of him. She pressed the red button and waited for the two, Izuku and Himiko, to reach her. They did, eventually. Izuku had to drag Himiko. The girl seemed distracted by something in the window. He sighed as he gestured towards the four seats. Himiko, this is Eureka-chan, she's my friend and, hero, student. He introduced and smiled when she slipped into the seat opposite Eureka. You never said she was cute, Izuku. You'd look so much better. Izuku smacked her and she shrunk down before she could continue. Silence filled the group. It was Himiko who picked up the silence, in blood. Midoriya face-palmed. Everything about Himiko was wrong. She looked so happy-go-lucky, but when they weren't talking, she had been glancing at the window with longing eyes. Midoriya had her wrist in a firm grip as if she could do a runner any second. While Okako appreciated the sentiment, she didn't want to be covered in blood. It was unsettling. A pit opened in her stomach as she opened her mouth to find nothing coming out. She looked over at Izuku for any type of help. He mouthed something but Okako was far from a master of lip reading. Sham's lying tights didn't seem like an accurate translation. Himiko giggled, don't worry. You're perfectly pretty without all the blood. I'm Toga Himiko. She stretched her hand out. Yurika hesitantly shook it. Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you, Toga-chan. You're really polite. Toga giggled, her legs swung back and forth. She had kicked Yurika a few times. Okako grinned through gritted teeth. That's basic manners as expected as a hero student. But that's boring. Izuku told me Yue wouldn't be boring. She pouted and crosses her arms like a toddler having a tantrum. Yue isn't boring. I'm sure Izuku's already told you about Bakugo. Manners aren't needed to be a hero. It's just because I want to be as friendly as possible to help calm down victims. What about the villains though? Are you going to be kind to them and save them, or don't they deserve it? Izuku's grip on Toga tightened. Toga stared at Yurika. Yurika tried to form the honest answer to the question. She bit her lip before answering, if they commit a crime I'll have no qualms punching them in the face to get them to stop. She looked up, as if Yurika had offered a candy bar. What if a villain was being attacked by another villain or in danger? Would you still save them? The air tensed. They all heard and chose to ignore Izuku's hushed questions of concern. I don't know. I'd want to, but in a real-life scenario. I really don't know. She dropped off and eyed her shoes. The train carriage continued to rock, but the only noises were pings from 2 phones. Toga went back to looking out of the window while she twirled her hair. Direct message, the girl on the beach. The girl on the beach, how the hell do you know her, Izuku? Mad Kid W notebooks, she's my favorite mugger. Kind of. She only ever really stole my blood and body heat. So, she's my favorite physical assaulter. Anyways, I won a bet and now she owes me. I'm handing her in, but to Yue because police officer wouldn't do shit if not arrest me instead. Uneasy face, needed someone who'd believe me and wouldn't lock her up. The girl on the beach, ignoring the whole police debacle, what's wrong W locking her up if she assaulted you? Won't Yue just do that anyways? Like, yeah our age but blood. Is it her quirk or SMTH? Is this you befriending someone? How long have you even known her, and why hand her in if you were friends? Mad Kid W notebooks, she was gonna join the Lofi. A, she has valuable info on them now. B, it's her quirk. Transform. Drink blood and bam, she's that person's physical form. Great for underground. C, been friends for a few years. She warded off actual muggers. D, don't think she's bad. Think Shinsu, but peer pressure actually got to her. The girl on the beach, are you mad? She could be a spy or some shit. Mad Kid W notebooks, don't think she is. The girl on the beach, 2, motives don't matter, still a physical assaulter? Mad Kid W notebooks, just let Yue deal W her. If she's irredeemable they'll arrest IG. Anyways, I don't know how she's passing through security, any ideas? The girl on the beach, just trigger the alarms, act like you forgot, then explain the situation? Might work. Mad Kid W notebooks, that's the best plan I've heard all day and the only one. I'm sorry for the question BTW. She can be a bit much. The girl on the beach, don't apologize. That's something I need to think about. They both looked down from their phones at the same time. It was gut instinct by now to know when their stop was coming up. Midoriya pocketed his phone and kicked his bag closer so he would grab it when the train stopped. He poked Toga. It's Yue's stop soon. Do you have everything you need? She nodded, yep. How are we getting in? I heard Yue has the tightest security ever. The train doors opened and they wandered off. Izuku tapped Yurika, can you grab a teacher? Himiko and I will wait outside. If they ask why, just say you have no clue, I'll do all the talking later. Izuku doesn't want to admit he's friends with a villain. Okako ignored that comment. She nodded and headed into the gates. Toga and Izuku stood outside. As other students walked past, they stared at them. Toga was grinning. She pointed at students like an excited puppy. The teachers couldn't come outside quick enough. Students who had undoubtedly been warned by their friends were racing past to avoid her. Himiko had taken to scowling as they covered their faces with hoods. The only kid to walk up and approach them was Boring. Izuku thinks they ran off crying. They hadn't stuck around long enough for him to apologize. When a teacher did arrive, it was a greasier than usual haired eraserhead. He took one look at Toga before rubbing his nose and sighing. Yurika stood beside him. That's her sensei. She whispered. The response was a grunt. No one said anything for a couple of seconds before Izuku stammered out, "I can explain." "You had better have a good explanation because the principal's hearing it, not me." "We're going now." Toga rolled her eyes but she followed as well. Around halfway through, Izuku realized Okako was also tagging along. He bumped her off and continued on his way. Himiko was awed by the halls. She hopped along and kept her words to herself. Midoriya had never been in the principal office. His only encounter with the principal had been the orientation, and that was far from personal. Izuku eyed him from the side. He offered no reassurance. Toga had stopped outside the door. She bit her lip, drawing blood. It didn't deter her as she licked around it. The saliva would heal it before could scab it. "So, are we going to go in?" she asked. Izuku took the handle and twisted it. The office was as wide as classroom, however it wasn't as long. Nizu sat a strangely tall desk for an being so short. There was a tea set and a love seat also in the room. His files were lined against the walls to offer as much floor space as possible. "Take a seat," he exclaimed, gesturing to the couch. Both kids took their seat and waited for the next instruction. Izuku hadn't stuck around, leaving them trapped in the office. Himiko stretched her legs out over Izuku as she lay down on the sofa. "So, what is it that brought you to my office today?" Nizu reached for his tea set and poured in the boiling water. His beady eyes glared at them. Izuku gulped as he pushed Himiko's legs off of him. "Himiko has been my friend for a while. We met up every now and then and it was always quick, so we didn't talk much, and she came up to me today and started going off about the League of Villains, and I knew the police wouldn't believe me, so I cashed in a deal and dragged her to UA on the basis that you wouldn't write her off as a villain off the bat." He dumped in one breath. Toga looked at him with wide eyes. Nizu smiled while he stirred his tea. "I am assuming the story is the same from your side, Toga? Or perhaps you could inform us of why Midoriya here was slow to introduce you as a friend and how you ended up with the League to begin with." "Ah, I thought the principal would be smarter than that." Even Izuku figured it out quickly. She continued, slouched on the seat, and eyed him. "Is that not more a reason to tell me?" "Okay, no one at school liked me and they didn't want me to have any of their blood, and they thought that was weird. So I didn't listen to them. They looked so pretty, Nizu-san, so pretty, all covered in blood. No one else agreed with me though. They thought they looked ugly and that there was something wrong with me. So I ran away and kept up all the rules on the most part. They were just so interesting. Then Staney came along and I want to be just like him. I want to be Staney, and the League knew him, so I figured it was worth joining. I was going to, but then Izuku persuaded me otherwise, and how could I say no?" Her cheeks had flushed bright pink and her eyes were glassy. Midoriya waved a hand in front. There was no response. "Leave her be, Midoriya. She'll come back to us when she is ready." Nizu assured, "We should focus on what we do from here. By standard procedure we ought to leave this to the police, considering she just admitted her crimes to us. However, I feel like had this been normal you would have let your friend get away. That is what you've been doing for the past few years after all, is it not, Midoriya?" "Yeah, I was wondering if you could help her with not going to juvie. I know you have a reform program. She deserves it, Nizu-sensei. I can vouch that she's never harmed me despite having several occasions. She wouldn't even be here if her parents were a teeny bit better. Himiko deserves a chance, or at least a chance to agree with it." "Yes, I suppose we would have to make sure she agreed to it. Though one must wonder if this is purely down to instincts she was not taught to control. Your friend Shinsu was in the same position, if I am not wrong. They're different types of quirks. Surely, you would know that, Nizu-sensei." "Yes, I do. I was merely interested to see what you would say. The only thing we can do now, however, is wait until Toga comes back to us. Would you mind giving me a minute to inform your teachers you'll be late for this lesson? You may message your friends the notice as well." "Right." Izuku took his phone and pulled up the group chat between Shinsu and Eureka. "Barking dogs seldom bite. Fresh do, I'm gonna be late for the lesson BTW. Waiting for Toga's response RN. Might be going through the reform program. She's in a sort of here days RN though and isn't talking or anything. Eureka, wait, does that mean? Oh lord. Catnip SMTH, am I missing SMTH here? Who's Toga? Does Mike know? Fresh do, Mike should know. Toga's a mugger, I apprehended. Eureka, he dragged her on the train. FRE sha vaca do, also Eureka. That does mean if she aggress she's gonna be in 1A. Eureka, okay, well I can try and be a welcome buddy. Catnip smth, you two are explaining this all at lunch. FRE sha vaca do, will do. She's not smiling all weirdly now so I have to log off. Eureka, so should I? Himiko blinked. She was still in the office. A glass of water stood in front of her. She drank the water as if she had been dehydrated. When she placed it down, she looked up to see the creature staring at her. So, Toga Himiko. How'd you feel about joining UA's Reformity program to get you back on the right track for life? Considering your age you'll probably she put in the hero course to try and hone your ability with knives and quirks. She blinked. Can I have a trial? Heroics have rules and they don't like me. I don't see why not. I'll put you in to join them for the afternoon. Alright, that's where we'll leave off for the day. Thanks so much for listening along with me today. If you enjoyed please like and comment down below. It really helps with the algorithms. I look forward to seeing you next time. Ciao for now, lovelies.